Most young men today are stuck in a cycle of apathy and comfort. We live in a world designed to make life easy. We have endless entertainment at our fingertips, food delivered to our door, comfortable air-conditioned offices to work in, not to mention the endless distractions day and night. And the result is a generation of men who feel uninspired, restless, and weak. Over 100 years ago, Theodore Roosevelt warned against this very danger, and he presented an alternative. He preferred an approach which he called the strenuous life. A life of hard effort, a life of responsibility, and a life of courage. Today, Roosevelt's words are more relevant than ever. If modern men are drowning in apathy, in comfort, in cheap dopamine, the strenuous life is the perfect cure. So in today's video, I will break down Roosevelt's philosophy into 7 key lessons. 7 lessons every man can apply today to build a life of strength and vigor and escape mediocrity and comfort. Now, before we go on, I want to just give you a little backstory on exactly who Theodore Roosevelt was, or why you should listen to him, and what the Strenuous Life speech was all about. Now, Teddy Roosevelt wasn't just an ordinary president. He was the embodiment of the vigorous masculine ideal. But things weren't always that way for Teddy. He was born a very sickly, asthmatic child, and he was born into a very wealthy family in New York, so he could have just coasted into a life of comfort, as many of his peers did. But instead, he rebuilt himself, really through sheer will and discipline. So he engaged in boxing, hunting, ranching in the Dakota Badlands. He charged up San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders. He explored uncharted rivers in the Amazon. And he would just stay up all night reading voraciously while other people slept. Now, by the time he became the 26th president of the United States, he was a war hero. He'd written over 35 books. He was a reformer, a naturalist, and a family man as well. He had 6 children. Now, he definitely lived with a relentless energy, definitely fueled by quite a lot of coffee. He was known for wrestling in the White House, giving a 90-minute speech after he got shot. He was also really into national parks and conservation, and he enacted a lot of laws that would protect wildlife and natural spaces in the United States. So I think he's a great role model for men because he proved that masculinity isn't about being born strong, it's about choosing strength every day. Now, he had a physical vigor, but he also had a moral courage, and his intellect was matched with action. His refinement was matched with ruggedness. He really was the Renaissance man in that sense. To me, he proves that a man can be tough and cultured, disciplined and adventurous. You can also be a fighter and a family man. So in other words, he's really the archetype of the modern gentleman's role model, a man who embraces the strenuous life instead of avoiding it. So let me tell you a little bit about the strenuous life and the speech behind this idea. So in 1899, before he was president, he was then governor of New York. He delivered a speech which became famous, known as the Strenuous Life. He actually delivered this speech in Chicago, Illinois, where I am. Now, during the speech, he draws on some of his own experiences, transforming from a frail boy into a vigorous man. And he used that as a metaphor for the nation of America. Now, he argued that the United States had a duty to embrace hard work, responsibility, even war, if it was to rise as a global superpower. So much of the speech is actually about foreign policy and intervention abroad, but the core ideas go a lot deeper, and that's what the speech is most remembered for. The same principles that he discusses on an international level apply to how we live as men today. It's about rejecting comfort, embracing responsibility, and striving for the benefit of others, not just yourself. So let me get into 7 lessons that I've identified from this speech and how you can actually take action in your life using these lessons. So the first lesson from the speech is to choose effort over ease. Roosevelt actually thought it was immoral for people who seek out a life of ease, for people who take the easy way out. He described it as ignoble. And the speech opens, "I wish to preach not the doctrine of ignoble ease, but the doctrine of the strenuous life, the life of toil and effort, of labor and strife, to preach that the highest form of success, which comes not to the man who desires mere easy peace, but to the man who does not shrink from danger, from hardship, or from bitter toil, and who out of these wins the splendid ultimate triumph. Now, if Roosevelt could see the way that modern men are living today, I'm sure he would be disgusted. We see modern men addicted to comfort, addicted to scrolling on their phones, to playing video games, to indulging in their vices, whatever that may be. And the more you seek out comfort, the more you are killing your own progress. So instead, what you should take from this speech is to seek out daily discomfort, just as Roosevelt did himself. He could have lived a life of comfort. He could have lived a very, very simple life, well, lavish life rather, being born into a wealthy New York family. But instead, he didn't. He worked on his body. For you, this might be going to the gym. You might need to seek out discomfort in the way that you communicate with people. Maybe that means striking up a conversation with a stranger, maybe a woman you find attractive. Maybe it means having difficult conversations at work or with your family that you've been avoiding. Because ultimately, Roosevelt was a huge believer that this struggle is what builds your character. The second lesson from Roosevelt is to embrace responsibility. He was a big believer that men should carry burdens rather than avoid them. And he certainly believed that the United States should embrace responsibility on a global stage rather than shrink and be isolationist. Now, today, I've noticed that many young men are afraid to commit. Maybe they're afraid to commit to a mission, afraid to commit to a career path, afraid to commit to a woman, to a relationship, maybe even afraid to commit to a community and play a more active role. And in Roosevelt's speech, he says, "The work must be done. We cannot escape our responsibility. And if we are worth our salt, we shall be glad of the chance to do the work, glad of the chance to show ourselves equal to one of the great tasks set by modern civilization." You can apply this to a smaller level, to a local level, to your personal life. Be glad of the opportunity to embrace responsibility. Be glad of the work that is set before you, because this is your chance to prove yourself as a man. This is an opportunity to show how capable you are in this great task. And you might not feel ready for the level of responsibility that comes before you. Maybe you are offered a promotion at work, or you see the opportunity for a promotion at work. It will involve some things that you haven't done before. It will involve stepping outside of your comfort zone. But the truth is, you will never really feel ready. I've had so many conversations lately about men and fatherhood, and they all said, I never really felt ready. It's something that you just have to do. This could also apply to building something bigger than yourself. Did I really feel ready to create Gen Z, to put myself online? Absolutely not. But I understood at the time that the only way I could possibly feel ready was if I actually did it. I remember just a couple of nights ago, some of you may have seen this on my Instagram stories, I was at the gym and I just was not in the mood for that workout. But I embraced the responsibility of taking stewardship of my body. And as soon as I got there and I actually began, then I was in the mood. So when you feel like you want to avoid that responsibility, that's actually a sign that you need to take it on the most. The third lesson from Roosevelt is to reject cynicism and passivity. Roosevelt despised the man who shrinks from danger, who criticizes others from the sidelines without taking action themselves. In this speech in particular, he's referring to the senators that were in opposition to imperialism, in opposition to the United States, playing more of a role on a global stage. And he said that those people, they have no share in the glory. They have no share in the honor. They have no reason, no cause to feel proud of the valor of the sea captains, no renown of the flag. Their motives might have been good. Maybe people sat on the sidelines for the right reason in their minds. But really, he believed they were evil by taking that stance. He believed they were doing wrong for national honor. And the United States won in opposition to those people. So I want you to win and succeed in opposition of the people that shrink on the sidelines, that are the naysayers, that will snark behind a screen. I mean, personally, I deal with this all of the time. I could open my phone and look at an endless array of comments of people being negative, of being naysayers. And anytime that you may wish to put yourself out there, you are going to face naysayers. You are going to risk failure. But the people that will comment, the people that will sit behind a screen or maybe talk behind your back, they're simply the cowards that would never have the balls to do something like what you're doing. So remember to always be a participant in life, not a commentator. It may feel slightly rewarding and comfortable for your ego in the short term to be cynical, to be ironic about things. But life as a man is about building, it's about competing and engaging. Never ever hide. As Roosevelt said, if we shrink from the hard contests where men must win at hazard of their lives and at the risk of all they hold dear, then the bolder and stronger peoples will pass us by. Other people will take those opportunities, will win for themselves the domination of the world. Lesson 4, strength of body and character. This one was so important to Roosevelt. And in the late 1800s, there really was a movement known as muscular Christianity. And this is when Western men began understanding the importance of building strength in the body, that mind and body and spirit are not separate. And if you wish to be morally vigorous, you ought to also be physically vigorous. So for young men today, I really do think it's non-negotiable that you lift weights, that you train, that you implement the discipline that's required to be healthy in your body. This is not optional. This is merely foundational, because the habits, the practices, the discipline that you will learn from doing this will apply to all other areas of your life. And yes, it will help your moral character as well. So I want you to train your body. I also want you to hold yourself to ethical standards in the way you communicate, in your relationships, in the way that you do business. Now, what does that mean exactly? Ethical standards in speech. That means telling the truth, even when it's difficult. That means being honest and open, not rude, but being able to express your opinion assertively, as a man should. That means entering relationships with the right intentions, being open about your intentions. And in business, this means serving your customers as you would wish to be served. I can't tell you guys how many offers I get almost every single day for money to promote products that simply I don't believe in. And of course, it would be very easy to accept the money and start showing you all of these things that people have paid me to do. But I hold myself to an ethical standard in business. And I genuinely believe that the work I've done in training, in the gym, in boxing has helped me uphold these ethical standards. Because I take pride in my body, I also take pride in the way I do business. Now, if you are enjoying this style of presentation video, this more educational style of video, there is a lot more where that came from inside the Gentleman's Institution. But the Gentleman's Institution, it's not just a course, it's not just a video series, it's actually an entire network and a community. And if you're like me a few years ago, this may be the very brotherhood, the very network that you're missing right now. Now, when you join, you're going to be connected with, as of recording this video, we have around 135 members. You're going to be connected instantly with those like-minded men all over the world. As you can see, we've got people in the United States, in Europe, Australia, Asia. It's really everywhere. You're also going to go on a 12-week adventure with me and the other gentlemen that will help you sharpen your discipline, your confidence, your style, your fitness, your dating, relationships, everything really that a modern gentleman needs. We also do 2 group calls every single week that I personally host. This is so that we can learn from each other, have deep conversations, form strong bonds, and I can also give you my personal one-to-one help with whatever you're struggling with. And we also bring in exclusive guest speakers. Like this coming Saturday, we have Raphael Schneider from the Gentleman's Gazette. So I've got all of these friends that I'm able to call on and get involved in the community just to provide a more valuable experience for everybody who's in that community. And we even have guys that have formed real life friendships exactly from this community. Like we have these guys over here, in Chicago meeting up for a regular cocktail day on Saturday evening. We have guys down in Sydney, Australia going for lunch, for dinner. So this isn't just an online community, it's actually a real life network. Now you'll be able to join this if you would like to using the link in the description. It's the top link and it's just $1 to jump in for your first 30 days. So you can give it a try and experience it for yourself. Now let's get back to lessons from Teddy Roosevelt. Lesson number 5 is to accept struggle as the price of greatness. Now, Roosevelt acknowledged that if you strive, if you work hard, it will be difficult, but it's better to try and fail than to never attempt. And he said, above all, let us not shrink from strife, moral or physical, with or without the nation provided. We are certain that the strife is justified, for it is only through strife, through hard and dangerous endeavor, that we shall ultimately win the goal of true greatness. Now, anytime you fail, I want you to redefine that, not as a setback, but as progress, as a lesson. If you work out, you will have had the experience of failing, of maybe dropping the bar on your chest and somebody has to come and help you pick it up. But you don't criticize yourself. You go, wow, I've really pushed myself to the limit there. See how you can take this concept of failure, of progressive overload into other areas of your life and your career and your communication skills. Because every attempt that you make, it sharpens your edge, it sharpens the sword. Every time you hesitate, every time you are reluctant, you dull that, you lose that strength. It's actually a muscle that can either be grown through repetitions or atrophied through hesitation. Lesson 6 is serve something greater. This comes back a little bit to the responsibility element that we were discussing earlier. Now, in Roosevelt's time, he was talking about national duty. But for a young man today, fortunately, we live in a peaceful, relatively peaceful time. It's unlikely you will be called up to serve your country. But you do have to serve your family. Maybe you serve your God, your faith. Or simply, you're building your own legacy. You're building something for the future. I want you to align your ambitions, your strengths with something that goes just beyond your personal satisfaction. Nothing wrong with wanting a Rolex. Nothing wrong with wanting a nice car. But if you make that your sole aim, then as soon as you accomplish those material things, you will feel empty. You will have lost your ambition. You will have lost your motivation. Instead, it should be aligned with something bigger than you. For me, a constant source of motivation is my family legacy, the future life that I will be able to provide to my children, to my wife. That is what keeps me going and also helps me stay away from selfish behavior, from selfish indulgences, because I realize that every time I indulge myself, I'm potentially taking away from my legacy, from my future family. I want you to ask yourself this, maybe even journal about it for a few lines. Who benefits if I become my strongest self? By strongest, I mean both mentally, physically, spiritually. Who else will benefit? Will your family benefit? Will your community benefit? How can you make sure that they do benefit as you become your strongest self? Because this won't necessarily be by default. You will have to find ways to channel that strength and to give back and serve something greater than yourself. And finally, lesson 7, cultivate courage and adventure. Roosevelt, in his speech, he calls on men to confront danger, not to hide from it. Now, for you in modern times, this might mean seeking challenges in business. It may mean traveling to adventurous places, going on your own journey, literally physically, in the places in the world. It could mean seeking challenge in dating, being intentional with the way you date. And of course, self-improvement, your own personal goals, the ways that you are building yourself up as a man. Be courageous. Set a high standard for yourself. Be adventurous. Put yourself in situations where you may fail. Put yourself in situations where you will be rejected, where you will get humbled. But it is through these humbling experiences that you will grow. So finally, let me leave you with a few of what I believe are the most actionable takeaways from the Strenuous Life speech. So the concept of a strenuous life, it's about rejecting the temptations of an easy, passive existence. And never before has that been easier or more tempting than it is today. Roosevelt could never have even imagined how comfortable, how easy, how passive life could be for a man. But a modern gentleman doesn't hide behind these temptations and comforts, nor does he hide behind cynicism. I hear from a lot of young men that are blaming the political situation, blaming the economy, blaming women. A gentleman only lays the blame on himself. And nor does he hide behind luxury. Nothing wrong with enjoying nice clothes, as you all know, I certainly do. Nothing wrong with wanting a nice place to live, or a nice car, or a nice watch. But those things do not compensate for a lack of moral character, for a lack of physical character. So make sure to build your foundations before worrying about the decorations. Train your body, shoulder responsibility, face those hardships head on, and channel your energy, channel your ambition towards your legacy, towards your faith, towards your family, towards your community, towards serving something greater than yourself, just as Roosevelt encouraged men to do for the United States over 100 years ago. So I hope you've enjoyed this video just as much as I have enjoyed making it. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about Roosevelt's concept of the strenuous life and how you are putting it into practice in your own life. Remember to join the Gentleman's Institution, join me on video calls, connect with like-minded men all over the world, and go on a 12-week journey to sharpen your discipline, your style, your confidence, and much, much more. We are all waiting in there to welcome you, so I can't wait to see your face and say hello personally.